We just heard the first lick of 3 that I picked from Garcia Live, Volume 7 for After Midnight. Each one kind of displays, a specific approach that Jerry was taking towards playing over the tune. So hopefully these will really help you kind of navigate how to play over your own solos over the tune. But let's get into the first one before we dive into the next 2. And first off, what is the song? What's going on here? We've got 2 parts. Jerry would solo over the verse and chorus, just back and forth sometimes for a very long time, right? But we're going to actually look at the licks that are just over the verse part, and that is E7, G, A, E7. So in terms of just looking at the notes first, like what, in terms of like say scale choices, what could go over there? What key is it in? Well, it's not really in a clear key because it's got these what I always call like rock and roll exceptions, lots of major chords that don't fit into the key and things like that. It's revolves around an E7 chord, a dominant 7th chord. So you could already think though right off the bat, okay, probably something with E because it's revolving around that chord, and then you get the G and A. So you could think of, okay, E mixolydian, things like that, but there is a G in there, so that's a minor third, all this stuff. But keeping it even simpler, thinking about pentatonics, E major pentatonic, that works great. E minor pentatonic gives you a little more edge, just get that G in there. Or an E blues scale, which is the same thing, just with the blue note. But let's start to look at the first one to see if we can figure out what's going on. And we're not going to look at every single note because this would take forever, but I'll look at the overall kind of concepts of what's going on. So right out the gate, he starts on the 11th fret up here, a D sharp, which is a major 7th. Here's our E, our root. So that's already right against what I was just saying for options. This note is not in any of those scale options. We're going to get to more on that in a second, but he starts on that major 7th, right? And slides up to the E to the root. So all that you can think of as just part of the minor pentatonic there, that, right? Or the blues scale, if you want to add this in. So he's doing that over the E. And then on the G, this right here, you can think of it, okay, that's a chord tone. We could try to be thinking, what is Jerry thinking? Probably not much, but he obviously practiced so much, he would work these things out, and then it just became like a part of him. So ultimately, we don't want to be thinking too much when we're playing, but let's try to figure out, though, how to get these sounds, So, okay, that's the 5th of G, so chord tone. Probably, again, not thinking about it because it's just going quick, but good to know that sound. There's that chord. There's that 5th. And then on the A, boom, hits an A right there. Again, probably not planning on that, but just intuitively go into it. And then we've got, there's a flat 5. There's that E blues scale. And then going down here, this is outside. This would be a major 2nd, part of the E major pentatonic or E mixolydian, or whatever you want to think of it. But just a 2nd, so we're going down that blues note. And then right here is a major 3rd, so I'm mixing in a lot of stuff, so just a lot of notes in this. Down to our E, and then we'll get to the E chord, back to the E7. Then we've got, so minor 3rd, major 3rd. Very, very common thing you'd be doing, right? Given that neighbor note, you might want to call it. Like this is more of a target of hitting that major 3rd, but hitting it from below, a neighbor below. And then right into the E, the root. Then going down here, so a little unusual. Again, we'll talk about this in a second. That major 7th. You might expect that, but he's throwing a lot of major 7ths. Now he's going to just chord tone. Here's a 5th. Yeah, there's that flat 7 now. Does that again. So when I hear that, I think he's outlining the chord, like the major chord right there. And then sometimes throwing out that flat 7 as well. Yeah, does that again, right? And then his little pause, and then the last measure he's got. There's that flat 5 again. To that flat 7, so he's just kind of focusing on that. Going right down that blues scale. And then not always, like predictable, but mixing that pattern up, doing that same thing, it's just down an octave. So flat third to major third, and then the last few. So that's same thing down here, but doing it down there. So you're kind of like stopping with what he was starting with. And there's that major seventh. Again, you may be thinking like, oh, that's a note you would typically want to avoid in this sound of like a kind of a bluesy sound. But he's doing it in a way where he's not hanging on it, except at the very beginning, because that creates all this tension. It's all about context. There's no right or wrong notes. A lot of people get the impression of like, you shouldn't do that. This is a bluesy song. You wouldn't want to play the major seventh. It sounds weird. But when he does it, it sounds great because of the way he's controlling it, the way he's using it for this tension and release. It creates all this tension. And then there, if he did this, it's like, that doesn't sound as good because it's further away from this note. So that there's still this tension release, but not as much as this. And then at the end, when he does it down here, again, if you just hear the difference if I did the flat seven, the one you would expect more, That's it's more cliche, just common sounding. That actually, to me, I was gonna say it sounds better. It's not about, better or worse, good, bad, right, wrong, but it's just the choice that he made clearly throughout this. And then again, this is giving you kind of the tools, the sounds to get more of that Jerry sound over this type of tune, or in general that you want. And that's giving it more of like a jazz kind of sound. These close notes thrown in there, notes that you wouldn't always expect, but it's not hanging on it. It's always, even if it is hanging on it, like here at the beginning, it's resolving it. So it's not just and then going off to something else. It's resolving it to where your ear is expecting it to go. So that's what's going on with the first one. That's got a lot of notes in there. But let's check out the second one and see what's going on with that. So now I picked this one because it's got some different things, but of course it's got a lot of the same stuff as well. But now we're in a different position down here, and he's playing around. You can think of it as chords. I'm always thinking about playing around, not just scale shapes, but playing more around the chords is more what's kind of in the forefront of at least my mind. So he's doing this again, flat third to major third. Starts off right away with that. And then sliding up, so and then from the root here, just sliding right down. Pulling off, and then right back up. So I like to move my finger here. Puts me in a position here for now going. So instead of just going right up, it jumps up to this one, goes backwards. And now again we're on a G, so what is he playing here? But he's playing the major six, but he's going right to that. There's that root, the G. So bending up. It's kind of classic rock thing here. And doing that same idea from here, but it's all about recycling ideas. It's not just random stuff, not just grabbing a scale and going, but recycling ideas, having a clear themes. This is a good example of something that's sometimes it's hard to hear because he goes so fast, but when we break it down slowly, you can see these themes, There's that G. Again, that major, a minor third, two major thirds, just doing this all the time. What's happening there? E, major third, major seventh, so root, major seventh, root again. He's doing that all over the place. And then he's going up here, so up an octave, right? And then there's that 3 in a row pull off again. This time he slides it down at the end. Major third, minor third again. Repeats it. Does that pull off thing again. And this thing it ends up with is really cool. You know, I'm thinking that he's thinking, you know, again, he's not thinking at all when he's playing, but the musical approach here is, okay, you got an E chord, these two notes, which are a sixth apart, you know. If you've seen a lot of my videos, you know I've made a lot of videos on this stuff. It's been a while though. I'm very obsessed with sixths and thirds and things like that. So I'm due. It's been a while. I'll probably never stop making videos about this stuff, but he's got those two, but rather than just play them, he's playing a note below into this, playing a note below that one, and into that. And if you wanted to, here's the root. In the middle, you can do the same thing. Right? And it makes for that very kind of playful sound, that typical Jerry sound. So throwing these notes in, you know, I've heard them referred to as like neighbor notes. So it's like a close neighbor going to the note there. You know, it's like thinking like this is where you live and this is your neighbor, your neighbor's house, right next door. Here's next door to that note, next door to that note, the root, that kind of stuff, you know. So let's look at the third one and see the different stuff he's doing in that one. So now this one is shorter and it's just over the E7, the kind of like at the last time coming back around to it. So he starts off at this position here with a slight bend, which I haven't had this in any licks yet, but typical thing, you know, Jerry be doing all the time. A slight little bend here in the minor third, and that makes it, gives it a certain little kind of playfulness, certain edge. And we've got, there's that 3 in a row thing he's been doing a lot of. So it's just the blues scale right there, just that, you know, just that blue note. I don't even think of like a blues scale, but just notes taken from it, you know, just 3 in a row. So leaps back up to that note. So it's another thing, a lot of notes in a row, and then big leaps too, mixed together. So it's kind of a theme going on, right? And then, so wow, this is different. Go down 1 fret, same thing, right? Go down 1 more fret, but this time instead of this, that note, he goes down 1 lower to the root. Same thing here, down a fret. And then to this note, I tapped it over here. You can play it here too. I'm gonna keep it in the same string as this stuff here. So this little like descending pattern. So starting off with the bends, that. So it's just a very, you know, playful thing. You know, that makes you think of Music Never Stop. You know, that kind of like thing he does at the beginning of it often, you know, when he does a little intro solo stuff. So just this little chromatic stuff and just, you know, just playing around. And think of these things as you can just play around with it, have fun with the ideas. You know, with the signature licks videos I make, you know, people can do whatever they want with them if they watch it and you enjoy it, of course. But my hope is that you don't obsess too much about trying to play it exactly verbatim, but you're getting some concepts here. You know, I hate to say, but like Ian from Session Method, he coined the term so well, but in the mind of his series. I love that. You know, kind of like the idea here, if we get a little bit in the mind of, you know, maybe I shouldn't say it, I'll come up with my own term, but, you know, and then you learn their approach and you can apply it to your own playing. But ultimately, you know, if you want to sound just like Jerry, whoever, go for it. But my thing is I really hope people can try to sound like themselves, and this stuff can help you get there because we often just become a collection of things that we hear and we like and we put it all together and then it sounds like us. So if you know, like Jerry's playing, obviously you must if you're watching this video. If not, like, I don't know what you're doing. What are you doing? Stop, watch something else. But don't worry about just trying to sound just like them, but just take in those elements and then do your own little spin to it and ultimately sound like yourself, you know? So hopefully this will help you get closer to that. And if you want to try it with the backing track, check it out in the link over here. Of course, I got a backing track. You can try out all of this stuff yourself. Have fun with it, and I'll see you in one of the next videos.